Hey guys, what's going on? All Hail King 9 back with another Call of Duty DFS video today where we're going to break down the second day of the Call of Duty League playoffs. Now, after the first day on Wednesday, I was able to cash in most of my lineups. Hope you guys were as well, and my video from yesterday helped you guys out. Just to recap that a little bit, Draza kind of let me down in a strange Optic Gaming series where Optic probably should have won in three maps, maybe four maps, but some problems with disconnecting in that matchup. So kind of a strange series. Draws really let me down there, but I still was able to cash with him in my lineups. Another player that I pointed out in yesterday's video was Aqua as a player that could, show up in this playoffs, and he did. He put up a monster day, was the highest scoring player, and I hope you guys had him in some of your lineups as well. So for the next day, for Thursday, we have a little bit better matchups here, and I really like this. Really like these two games, and I really think that I could give you guys some good advice for these matchups. So let's get into it. All right. So just to start off with saying for these matchups on Thursday, for this video, I'm gonna break down both matchups, but to be honest, I really only like the first game on this slate because I think that this series is gonna be very competitive, very good series. This is definitely gonna go 4 games at least, in my opinion. I don't really see this being a sweep for either team, but that Minnesota-New York series, I can easily see New York sweeping Minnesota in 3 games. Minnesota hasn't been good since they've moved the league to online, and New York has been looking very good. So quite the opposite form for both of those teams. So I will go over that matchup, but I don't think I'm going to have a player from that series in this particular lineup that I'm going to build in this video, but definitely in the other lineups I'll build, I will have some exposure because I don't want to completely avoid those players. So first matchup is going to be the Toronto Ultra versus the London Royal Ravens. So this should be a very good series, as I said, and I'm pretty excited to watch this one as a Call of Duty fan, but also for a DFS perspective. So both these teams have looked very good leading up to these playoffs. So Toronto obviously won the last event of the season, and that was largely in part of Cammy. Cammy was really just their standout player that weekend, but overall their team was looking very solid. So for the Toronto side of things, Cammy's definitely a player that I want to have in my lineup. Just a great S&D player, great all-around player to be honest, but just puts up big numbers for you. I could see a lot of people having him in the MVP spot. I think that's a pretty fine idea, but for this particular lineup, I'm not going to have him in the MVP spot. But for the other Toronto players that I like, Methods, he was a top AR for most of the early part of the season. Then he kind of slowed down, but he's back in great form here. You could see those last 3 games, all 100 plus in that last event. So I expect him to, put on that type of performance again in these Call of Duty playoffs. Now, the other player that I like from Toronto, if you want to save some of that money, will be Kleenex. Now, Kleenex is only 7,000. He doesn't put the biggest numbers up, but I think that he's got really good potential here, as it's gonna go 5 games probably, and 4 or 5 games I should say, and with that many games being played, I think this is great value here for 7,000. I think he should easily be able to get you at least 80 points, which should be enough with only two games for this slate. So now for the London side of things, I really like London as well. They're another team that's been playing really well together, and a lot of their players have been having great performances. So it starts off with the twins being Scraps and Wuskin, and Scraps is going to be the player that I want to have in my MVP spot for this particular lineup. Scraps has just been one of the best ARs in the game, puts up a great KD every event, and he just always is putting up solid numbers. So you can see here, 142 the last time out, 129 before that, and then 95 against Seattle Surge. So a bit of an off series there, but still getting 95 points. So I think he's a pretty safe pick for your MVP spot here. Now the other player, as I mentioned, his twin brother Wuskin is another great player. He's not going to get as many engagements as Scraps would get, but he usually keeps a high kill death ratio, and he usually performs in those S&Ds. So if this series goes 5 games, there's going to be those 2 S&Ds played, and Wuskin should be able to perform. So I'm also going to have Wuskin in the lineup. Now the other player that I really like from the London team is Zero. Zero has completely changed this London team and has really made them the reason that they've been looking so much better, because he's just adding a very good presence in that SMG role. You can see here the past 3 games he's gotten 100 plus. So I think that's a great pick here in this Toronto series. Now, the 2 other spots that I want to have here, as I'm going back to the Toronto side of things, is going to be Cammy, as I touched on before, and also Method. Just 2 great AR players that, you want to have those guys with high KDs, and these are 2 guys that are going to give that to you. And, as I said before, we have a lot of money. It's because we're avoiding some of the most expensive players in this series. So I'll break down this series for you guys here, being Minnesota versus New York Subliners. So, as I said, the most expensive players on this slate are basically a lot of them from being this New York series. So the reason I'm avoiding them is because I just think this has a very high potential of being a quick series, and New York just coming out and completely dominating Minnesota. I can't really see this going 5 games, maybe 4 if Minnesota's maybe able to steal a map, but I think it's a pretty safe bet to say that New York's going to come out and dominate them. So, with that said, if you wanted to play some of these guys and not completely fade them, I totally understand. Mac was a player that was completely tearing it up, but then the roles kind of changed in that team, and as of late, you can see hasn't been putting up the big numbers that he was in the past. So, I think that high price tag is really not worth it. I think a lot of people might play him because of how well he was doing in the beginning of the year, but personally, I just don't think he's your best bet for the New York Subliners. For me, that's going to be Attach. I think Attach has been playing so well for his team. You can see the scores are a little bit lower because they had so many best of 3, or not best of 3, but series ending in 3, just 3 maps. So the scores are down a lot, but I think that he's a great player. He's been playing their best. Playing the best on that team, and he had the highest KD in their last event for them. So, like I said, if this series somehow goes 5 games, attaches somebody I'd want on my team. Temp and Zuma are also other players that, if that series goes 5 games, I could see them also having pretty good numbers. For the Minnesota side of things, I really don't like anybody on that team. Assault is probably their best player in terms of just raw talent. You can see averaged about 92 points per game in this whole season, but the numbers look a little weird because of just shortened series. You have that one series that went 5 games where he was able to get 134. So if Minnesota is able to make it go 5 games, then it's going to be Assault who's going to be leading the charge for them. Yeah, and that's pretty much all I would say about that. Maybe you want to look at Asim, who was playing really well before, before that last event. He was playing really well, where he was able to put up 127 against London. That's the other series that went 5 games. So, yeah, those are the players that, are, if you want to take a shot, those are the players that I would say. But for this last spot for our lineup for the team slot, as you probably guessed, we have a lot of money we could spend up, pay for the New York Subliners, because I think that they are the safest bet to, get you those most points for winning the match, because I think the Toronto-London game could be a bit of a toss-up there. So that's going to be the lineup that I'm going with for this kind of optimal lineup, if you will, for this video. But definitely, as I always do, I'm going to have different lineups with some exposure to the players that I talked about throughout this video. So I thank you guys so much for watching. Comment any feedback. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. And as always, I will have my PayPal in the link below. If you guys are feeling that you want to donate, you don't have to, as I always say, but I do put in a lot of time to make these videos and to research, so I would greatly appreciate that. And as always, at the top, You see my Twitter. You could always tweet at me about these Call of Duty lineups or any questions that you have about the slate. And thank you guys for watching. Let's go win some money, and I'll catch you in the next one.